Welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. Today we are diving into a topic many of my clients struggle with: emotional regulation in relationships. Whether it's your partner, a parent, or someone that is close to you, we've all felt that instant surge of heat when something triggers us. It's that burning feeling inside, the rush of anger, frustration, or even panic. I know this feeling far too well. For years, I would snap at criticism. I'd feel my whole body tense, my chest burn, my throat close up, and before I knew what was happening, I was lashing out. The people who copped it the most were my partner and my mum. And the worst part, I was reacting from old wounds, from moments in my past where I felt unheard, unseen, or not enough in relationships with my father or romantic relationships. But here's the thing. You can break the cycle. I did it. You can learn to regulate your emotions in the heat of the moment. And today I'm going to give you a few tools to do just that. So, first, step one, let's go with that. Control and confidence. So, the first thing I want you to remember is control your breath, control your response. So often we're in the heat of the moment, we're having a conversation with our partner, our loved one, and we're instantly triggered by something that they say, whether it takes us back to the past, something in our childhood even, and our body goes back to what we remember instantly. So for me, like I said earlier, my throat close feels like it's getting really tight and I get really red in the face. And the first thing that I would get used to doing is being like, let me protect myself and get defensive here because you're wrong, I'm right, I'm winning this argument. End of story. And let me tell you, it never works. So what we want to do is we want to have control, not controlling the situation or the scenario. We want to have control over our breath and how we react. So your breath is the first word. Let your breath lead. When you feel yourself getting triggered, what I want you to do is inhale deeply through your nose for 4, and then I want you to hold for 4 and exhale for 4. And I want you to repeat this 3 times. So for example, my clients sometimes say to me, well, that's so awkward, like they're talking at me and then I'm here going. So for example, if you were to do it, you go, and usually you'd breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, but you can do this when people can't actually see you. So for example, I'll do it now, and you can probably hear it because the mic is so close to my mouth, but simply just in through the nose, out through the nose. And this is allowing your heart rate to drop. You can be aware of oh shit, I'm triggered. I'm feeling it where I usually feel it. I don't know what exactly it is that has triggered me, but it's there. So I want you to speak first with your breath. And that kind of gives the person a second to realize that they're carrying on and you're trying to understand what the heck is going on. This step stops you from reacting instantly. It gives you time to pause. It creates space between what you feel and how you respond, which is so, so important. And I think so much in life, like I said, we are so quick on the defense because we feel like we have to protect ourselves. But this is where we have to break the cycle. We do not need to protect our inner child anymore. We need to communicate and respond how we deserve and how the other person deserves to be spoken to. And also thinking the person that is triggered, how can I help them come back down? How can I support them? Because, wow, they're really triggered right now too. So you really want to have a holistic approach on the whole scenario so that you both get the best result out of this, essentially. So we want to speak with confidence, not with reactivity. When you go into a conversation trying to win, you often lose. Instead of focusing on winning, focus on understanding and expressing clearly. So we go on to step 2, mastering assertive voice. So when emotions are high, Our wounds can either be the bridge of connection or they can literally burn it down. Key is to be direct, but be kind. We want to have really strong boundaries in this as well. So we don't want to be coming across like malicious or nasty. We want to be assertive and be like, hey, like this is actually not right. I need to set some boundaries here, but I do actually really want to hear what you have to say. So say what you need to say without explaining. The more you explain, the less powerful your words become. And word vomit actually weakens your message, so keep it clear. Instead of like reacting so defensive, try saying, I hear you. Here's where I stand. I want to understand your point. So I think this is like the hardest, like I can sit here and give you all these tools. This is the hardest thing to, I guess, implement if you do find yourself quite a reactive person. So for me, I started to learn all the tools and understand how to, I guess, communicate and speak to my partner and my mum or someone in a regulated state. But it took me a really, really long time. So it does not, let me just tell you, it does not happen overnight. The thing that you will notice is you'll start to be like, you'll have the awareness and you're like, far out this rage. You'll identify where the rage is or the frustration sitting in the body. And then you kind of like, you don't click on yet how to be able to then control, like bring down that heart rate. So it does take time. A lot of my clients, when I tell them this, they're like, oh, okay, sweet. And then they come back the next week and they're like, I was so reactive, like I was aware of my feelings, but I couldn't like quite bring it into place yet with the breath. Like it takes time. Like if you think about this, we've been reacting this way for, I'm 30 and up until I was 25, I was very, very reactive. Not because I wanted to hurt the other person or piss the other person off or not that I actually wanted to win. I genuinely just wanted to protect myself, to show people my worth. And I think that's what a lot of people and a lot of my clients that come through, it's like, hold on, why don't you see my worth and why am I the issue? When really, when we stop and we breathe and we listen, you can hear we're not actually the issue. They just need to communicate. And the other person on the other side probably doesn't have those tools, probably doesn't understand how to communicate, but be the person that guides them, be the person that can teach them. And the main, I guess, tip as well, we want to keep the conversation open without letting emotions take over. So often we speak from emotion rather than logic when we're in the heat of the moment. If emotions are really high, create space and say, let's drop this for now and come back when we're both calm. I want to have this conversation, but not like this. Let's talk later. And I think what is really important as well is you've got to figure out what your partner or your loved one needs as well. Because I know, for example, coming from an anxious attachment style, I would often want to sort out the situation straight away. And my partner, being avoidant, would go, I cannot deal with this right now. I need to leave and come back to you because anything that I say is probably going to hurt you at this point. So I think it's really good if you're in a relationship and you're experiencing this before you actually, you obviously not planning a fight, but kind of prepping for it. So like, hey babe, what do you need when you're in heated moments? Is it space? Do you need to kind of chat straight away? So come up with like a bit of an action plan to prevent these kind of situations. And I mean, we're all human and we're all natural. Like we're going to get frustrated. We're going to say things that we don't mean. It wouldn't be human and not to have these situations happen. So don't feel guilty as well if they do happen and you're trying to kind of like move through this. It's a part of life. People do have emotions and people do get upset and reactive, but it's just you do have the control. So I think figuring out what works for you and your partner. So then my partner and I had to be like, okay, well, I like to solve the situation straight away and you need space. So how can we meet in the middle to make it work for both of us, and how can we make each other feel heard when we're both heightened? So for example, my partner will say, okay, I'm just going to take 10, but I do want to finish this conversation because I want to be able to hear you. And then that makes me go, okay, he's coming back in 10 minutes. We're not going to have to wait 24 hours to resolve this. Let's take some breaths. So that's kind of how we work out what is going to best support us. So we're not kind of, it gives that person as well, okay, wow, she can hear me, but she also wants to react in a way that is respectful. So, okay, I honor and respect that. I'm going to give her the space. And that's also giving your partner time to regulate, because sometimes they might not even realize how heated they actually are. And if someone's being like disrespectful and you don't want to engage, you can say things, I'm open to talking about this, but not like this. We can continue when we are both calm. At the end of the day, what truly matters is connection, understanding, and emotional safety. So next time you feel yourself getting heated, triggered, or overwhelmed in a conversation, I want you to pause, breathe, and regulate. Remember, the power lies in how you choose to react. Everything is a choice. And I think this is what we forget in the heat of the moment. We quickly go to blame. Well, you came at me. You pissed me off. You said the wrong thing. You were rude. We're so quick to put everything back on someone else. And I think it's important to identify when someone's being disrespectful and say, whoa, I can't hear this right now because I find it quite rude. But remembering we don't need to blame as much, and we can go, actually, I have the control. I don't have control over you or the scenario or the situation, but I have control over how I respond. And there is so much beauty in that. And that is when we come back to our power, we can bring in our feminine and our masculine, and we can balance it out. And we can have this moment where we can actually be seen and heard. And our partner, I guarantee you, and I know this because it happens with me, is he goes, oh, wow, I love that. She's really grounding and she's in her feminine and masculine, and she's really trying to show me that she wants to have a conversation and make this work, and she wants me to be heard. So I think remember that. There is power in speaking with the breath first. So just a super short episode today to add some value around regulation. And I put out a post on Instagram yesterday saying if you've got any questions around regulations and things like that. And I didn't bring my phone in with me, but I actually remember 2 of them. I'm going to answer them the best that I can, remembering what the questions were. But one of them was yelling. So I think it was something, having moments where they snap and they react and they don't actually want to, or they might be in the midst of doing something and all of a sudden it's like, and then they had the realization of like, whoa, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why I was so snappy. So very similar to like what I'm talking about is sometimes we don't even realize it. So you've got to remember as well what is happening for you is like you might even have a reflection of like, wow, what's actually happening for me at the moment to feel like I've got a snap. You might have a really busy life at the moment. You may have some stress in the family. There could be, anything like financial stress, work stress, business stress. And I think we sometimes forget that everything kind of builds up like a, what's that analogy? An iceberg. And then the ice just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and then it just explodes up essentially because there's lots of things piling on top of each other. So I think it's also really important to remind yourself to have grace when you do have these moments, and remember that you are human and life is happening and there's a lot that is surrounding these situations sometimes. However, if you're seeing it's a pattern, I would really reflect on that. I would come back to, okay, so when I snap, let's say at my daughter or at my husband or at my mum, what am I feeling when that happens? So identify where you're feeling the frustration. Is it in your tummy? Is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? Where is it? And then I want you to ask yourself, what am I achieving from snapping? What am I getting out of this? And I really want you to sit with your reactions and how it's being received. And then I want you to become super aware of this And then use this as a challenge next time you have the feeling, because you've had the time to identify where it's happening for you in your body. And I want you then to respond with a breath. And you can do it a little bit passive if you have to, in through the nose, out through the nose. As long as it's not aggressive towards them, like, then we're okay. And then it can be like, hey, sweetie, what you're doing right now is not actually supporting me at the moment. Can we come up with another plan? So I think the most important thing is to ask yourself, what are you achieving from reacting like this? Where are you feeling it in your body? Have awareness and respond with breath. The other question that we had was something about how do we deal with, it doesn't really go too much within to emotional regulation, but I think it does in some sort of way. So the question was something along the lines, how do I move through or work with my partner speaking to their ex, which is a very hot topic at the moment. A few of my clients have actually are experiencing this at the moment. I have experienced this, and it's hard. I won't lie. It is something that I did really struggle with. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to communication with your partner and doing reflection on how are they showing up and reacting when you bring it up. So when you're communicating, best thing to do as well, make sure you're regulated when you go into the conversation, because these things can get really heated, especially if there's emotion behind it, being their ex, whether they're their mother or their children as well. So things can get a little bit sticky here. However, they don't need to be. So I think it's really important to remember when you're going into a conversation with your husband about this, make sure you are regulated as much as you can be. So whether it's taking the meditation that I'm actually going to be doing for you today and listening to that before you go into the convo, doing your 3 breaths in through the nose, out through the nose, and then going, okay, what do I want to achieve from this conversation? So similar to what advice I just gave. So writing down what is the best scenario and how can I achieve that? So being calm, stepping into your power and into your confident voice so that you can be heard. Because if you go into the conversation being like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why you keep talking to her. I'm so pissed off, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the situation is. And I'm not saying that you do that, but just from what I've experienced and what I hear, I think it's important to make sure that your voice has clarity, confidence, and is really, really clear. And affirm, you be firm. I think it's important to be firm too, to see that, hey, I'm starting to get really upset with this, but I do want to make this work for the both of us. And then maybe asking the questions, I don't really know the situation 100%. So maybe it's giving yourself 3 questions that you would like to ask, whether it is, why do you feel that you need to be in contact with your ex? Is it because of the kids? Is it because you have an emotional connection with her? Really get particular with the questions. And then I'm just trying to think what else you can ask. Really make them feel as well like you never want to go into a conversation blaming. So whether it's like putting a hand, I know that this is the hardest thing when you're frustrated or you're hurt. But, putting a hand, your partner might really like physical touch, putting a hand on their knee, putting a hand on their shoulder or holding their hand and being like, hey, I really want to work through this because I'm actually struggling with it and I want to understand why this means so much to you and why you feel the need to be so, interactive with your ex. Can you help me understand? I would like to understand. It's like Mel Robbins, what's that? She says, let them, but let me understand you. So I want to know what's happening so that I can work with you and I can support you. And then when I have a clearer understanding, it's easier for me to be like, okay, it's not because you're not happy with me or you want to get back with your ex. You can then start to have confidence and be like, all right, I can move with this and let's make it work. So I'm going to leave it there just because it's a short and sweet episode today. However, we're going to be doing a little meditation for you. So I think it's really important when we do these episodes, I want to be able to give tools and keep it short and sweet and answer some questions, but then be able to actually give you something that you can have in your pocket at any point of the day. So let's say, you're feeling deregulated today, you'll have a podcast straight after this to listen to that is to help particularly with self-regulation. So it's a little journey that I will take you on now.